Hello and welcome to Doubles and Trebles. We're here to preview the Premier League Week 5. I've got Pine Man back this week. Last week I was on my own, and this time about a week ago I was celebrating my own Week 3 bets that went pretty well, with Michael Smith winning that night at 4-1. Then Week 4 was an absolute car crash. Both my picks went out in the first round. Gerwin Price, who I've been opposing for weeks, appears to have returned to some sort of form. And last week in Dublin saw MVG register his first night win, although he has been pretty consistent and made a final, etc. before that. He had to wait till Week 4 to get his first win on the night. As you can see, they're beating Gerwin Price 6-5 in the final. Well deserved. Beating Price, like I say, gripping final, really. The averages weren't fantastic, but very good when those two face off usually. And this week we're off to the first English fixture, believe it or not, in 5 weeks in Exeter, where a bit of an anomaly really about this week, Pie Man, is that the top 4 in the table actually are in the top half of the draw here. So those guys, there's a little bit of a gap. Van Gerwen, Smith, Price and Aspinall, as you can see, they actually face each other in the first round this week. So without further ado, we'll pass on to Pam for any general comments, and then we'll get stuck into this week.
Yeah, well, enjoyed last week, and for what it's worth, although your bets didn't work out last week, I was of a similar line of thinking. I much prefer to play the bottom end of the market on these Premier League nights, because I don't think there's a lot between this field, to be honest, and I don't think it takes much for one of the bigger price runners to string 2 or 3 wins together and get the cash. As it was a night for favourite backers, really, wasn't it, with MVG finally winning. And it must be said, I didn't think it was at his absolute best throughout the evening. No ton plus averages as we've seen from him in other weeks. He was quite fortunate in the final, Gerwin Price missing match starts in 2 separate legs, I think, from memory. But look, he's been a mark of consistency so far, Van Gerwen, and fitting that he should win a night. What you talk about with the gap opening up between the top 4 and the bottom 4, it's interesting, definitely. We've seen it in recent years where normally 1 or 2 players at the halfway mark will kind of be not cut adrift, but really up against it to qualify. And we often see 1 or 2 pull away at the top in a kind of battle for the top. So I wouldn't be panicking too much yet if I was these guys in the bottom 4. I mean, Peter Wright may be feeling a little bit uncomfortable, having yet to get a point. Remarkable, really. But yeah, I'm just wondering whether this is the time to maybe have a look at the outright market as well. But we'll concentrate on this week first, and then we can maybe just check in with the outright tournament market at the end.
Yeah, that's the way. That final last week, Gerwin Price missed 7 match darts. The last leg was a joke, to be honest, that we don't see very often, but we enjoy it nonetheless, Pie Man, they're both missing hatfuls of darts. I think they ended up on 2-2 between them. That was the type of game it was. So on to this week, like I say, it's a very lopsided draw in my opinion. We'll start with the rematch of last week's final, MVG and Price. It's 8-11, MVG 6-5 Price. I've been anti-Gerwin Price for a few weeks. It was to my cost last week. Maybe I'm going to have to change that strategy. He was pretty superb in rounds 1 and 2 in Dublin last week. Went out and at the Euro Tour, he went out to the eventual winner, Chizzy, averaging 108. Gerwin Price averaged 108 on Saturday and lost to Chizzy. Van Gerwen, as we've mentioned, been typical Premier League Michael Van Gerwen, consistent as you like, playing like the favourite should do, and that's the same every year, really. Betting wise for me in this one, Pine Man, for ACCA purposes, my anti-Price agenda is going to continue, and I'm going to back MVG minus 1.5. That's 6-4 or better at 6-5.
Yeah, it'd be a no bet for me, to be honest, but I can understand that. I mean, Van Gerwen's certainly the more trustworthy of the pair. And if anyone does like a fun ACCA, I wouldn't be against angling with him. Yeah, I thought Gerwin Price kind of threw it away last week. I mean, I think he averaged well over a ton in both of his other games. So it was a bit disappointing to see him dip into the low 90s. That was purely doubles based. His scoring was still good. He's carried on that really encouraging scoring on the Euro Tour. So it's only a small sample, but of what I've seen of Gerwin Price in the last sort of week to 10 days, it's very encouraging signs going into the UK Open at the weekend. But yeah, as for this one, I just wonder whether there is we should mention that the UK Open starts at Minehead just a few hours after this. None of these players entering until round 4, of course. So it's not that quick a turnaround for them. And they are in the right part of the country for it. But you wonder whether, they may have their eyes already on this UK Open ahead of this one. But yeah, no bet for me in the top game.
Yeah, I like the MVG angle at -1.5, but wouldn't be bowl you away confident with that. Before we get stuck into the second game, Pie Man, one question. Talk to me about the Michael Smith injury.
Yeah, it started showing signs of it on the Euro Tour against Nico Springer, and then we saw a continuation of it in his next match. He did eventually exit that Euro Tour, and I think fair to say that he wasn't at his brilliant best. But Dirk van Dijvenbode, who eventually done for him 6-3, did blast in 8 180s in that 9-leg game. So I'm not sure even a fully fit Michael Smith would have been able to deal with Dirk in that kind of form. But yeah, it was a funny one, really. So when he's releasing the dart, he's kind of holding his right wrist. Appears that he's suffering with a bit of pain. It did seem to be getting worse as his games were going on. I wouldn't have been surprised to see him skip this Premier League night and, go to the UK Open, but there's no signs of that so far. We don't really know how quickly he's going to have recovered from it. It may show absolutely no signs of that issue in Exeter. It may be painkillered up to his eyeballs, or it may be a big issue. I think that's, I could see some people taking on Smith with Nathan Aspinall at the price, but I'm not sure I would be confident enough to do that. Really, we don't know enough about that injury for me to be doing that.
Hi, man. I 100% agree. We'd not spoke beforehand about this. But yeah, on the back of all this injury talk, some would be keen to get with Aspinall as an outsider in a two-runner race. But I don't think it's that simple. It's a steer clear job for me. For the record, Aspinall is 13-8, has shortened a little bit on the back of injury talk. And Michael Smith, the world champion, is 4-7. Steering well clear of that game, personally.
Yeah, I would as well. I know it's boring to have two no bets in the first two, but just like you say, I mean, I think the likeliest winner of the match is Michael Smith, and if there's another factor at play, it's not enough to entice me into having a bet.
Yeah, into the bottom half of the draw then. Dimitri Van den Bergh is 4-6, and Chris Dobey is 5-4. Wouldn't be particularly confident, but on price alone, I'd be happy to take Dobey as the outsider in the ACCA. Nice and simple. He's 5-4. Dimitri let me down last week when I put him up, but he has settled quite well into the Premier League. Don't get me wrong. Dobey won the first week, done pretty much naff all since, but it's all about price. 5-4 in a two-runner race. I'll just let it run.
Yeah, done naff all since in terms of actually progressing through the thing, but I haven't been too discouraged by his actual performances. He looks like he's embracing the Premier League format, Chris Dobey. He doesn't look overawed by it. Looks like he's starting to believe and feel that he should be in this format. I think if you'd have offered him this kind of start over the first 4 weeks, he'd have taken it. And by the same logic, Dimitri Van den Bergh has settled in quite well. However, like you say, week 3, I think we saw him sort of smashing in the 180s, and he looked like a winner in weight, and he didn't follow that up. Last week, he didn't look particularly great on the Euro Tour. So yeah, I'm totally with you. At the prices, Chris Dobey would be a bet for me at odds against.
Good stuff. The closest game of the first round on Thursday is Johnny Clayton against Peter Wright, 10-11 each of two. How Snakebite hasn't won a game in the Premier League this year yet, I do not know. 4 games, 4 defeats. He lost a last leg decider last week, but did look out of sorts in defeat to Keegan Brown on the Euro Tour over the weekend. Very much in and out, inconsistency personified. Similar comments could apply to Clayton. He was really good at the weekend, really good, I thought, in Germany. I liked his performance there a lot, but he's been terribly inconsistent in this Premier League so far. Averages of 101, followed by 89, followed by 102, 99, 91, and 92. Will the real ferret please stand up? I just think he's a little bit all over the place. This game to me has got legs, surely. 6-4 or 6-5 either way is 10-11. That's via the over 9.5 legs. That's in the ACCA for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you. I'm kind of leaning towards Johnny Clayton here. It's not with a lot of confidence, but it's my logic looking at the way this draw is. As you say, the top 4 players who've all got off to good starts are all in the top half of the draw. Therefore, logic suggests this is a great opportunity for someone in the bottom half to make the final, and they'll all be looking at it, I would say, as this is a good opportunity to win a night here, because even your semi-final is going to be quite attractive in terms of avoiding MVG, Price, and Michael Smith. I think Johnny Clayton, Peter Wright, the winner of that match, is the most likely to make the final. And I have to say that on recent performances, Johnny Clayton is the most likely to beat Peter Wright. So what I'm not actually going to do is play this in the match market. I'm going to back Johnny Clayton as the outright winner just because I think he's likely to beat Peter Wright, and I would fancy him in his semi-final as well. So I'm sure we're coming onto that market. But yeah, no bet in the match, but certainly a bet in the outright market for the week.
Yeah, that brings us on to the outright section of the chat. I don't know why them prices are showing in the wrong order, alphabetical, but it's pretty obvious for regular viewers where Pie Man and myself will be going here, avoiding the informed players in the top half of the draw and chucking a couple of quid on an outsider in the bottom half. As we say every week, Pie Man, it is all about price. Snakebite, yet to win a game, is 5-1. Dimitri, yet to pull up any trees, 8-1. Clayton, inconsistent as you like, 8-1. And Dobie is 20-1. Now, I'm not saying that Dobie isn't any of those things stated above. He won week 1. He's been pretty crap since in the 3 weeks following. But he's 20-1. If Chris Dobie was 8 or 10-1, I wouldn't be interested in him. But just in comparison to those in his section of the draw, he's got to be the standout value. I just can't see how he's 2.25 times bigger the price than Dimitri Vandenberg, for example.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I like to look towards the bottom of a market, and just the same comments that I just said a couple of minutes ago about Chris Dobie. He's not looked overawed or out of place. Results haven't married up particularly well for him in the last 2 or 3 weeks, but he still is competitive. I mean, he had a really nice 148 checkout last week against Michael Van Gerwen in defeat, so he's enjoying it up there. I don't think that the Exeter crowd is going to be particularly. I may have misjudged this, but I don't think it's going to be a fierce atmosphere compared with some of the others that you may experience. Let's be honest, he's been in Dublin and Glasgow in the last 2 weeks, 2 cities who we would associate with fairly raucous crowds. So yeah, no reason why Chris Dobie can't go and do it this week. My pick would be Johnny Clayton for very similar reasons to what you just said there. Peter Wright 5-1, Johnny Clayton 8-1. I think Johnny Clayton's the more likely winner of that match. And I think if he was to face a Chris Dobie or a Dimitri Vandenberg, he'd be instilled as a favourite. So on the price play, I would have to go with Johnny Clayton and Chris Dobie. We all know that the winner is more likely to come from the top half this week, but the two players are definitely those two lads in the bottom half.
Yeah, it's a straight up price play on Chris Dobie for me at 20-1. So just wrapping up my bets then, Pie Man. I'll be on over 9.5 legs in the Snakebite versus Clayton. I'll be on Chris Dobie at 5-4, and I'll be on MVG minus 1.5 on the legs handicap at 6-5. What's the standout for you?
Yeah, just the one match bet for me is Chris Dobie 5-4 against Dimitri Vandenberg. As you say, I think that's very fair odds against. Don't see much in that contest. And then I'll be taking Johnny Clayton, and I think you've talked me into a small saver on Chris Dobie at 20-1. So yeah, let's rooted for the Clayton Dobie semi-final.
Absolutely, there we go. So that's week 5 of the Premier League wrapped up for you there with some nice bets to be had as well. And we will be back with a UK Open preview in the coming days or potentially hours. So make sure you're liking and subscribing, and we'll be back soon with more darting content. Cheers.